because it was a dry county.
Right, okay.
And they knew people like Mick Jagger and, Rod Stewart. And
they weren't going to stage right.
Might want a little, cocktail. But it was illegal to purchase it. And so they were young guys opening their first business. They were on the wrong side of the law. So their answer to that was, and again, this wasn't there back in the day. That's to help me with my tours, but it was one of these numbers. You just popped it. And if you didn't know this was here, they didn't tell everybody it was here.
Wow.
But here it is.
So this is, tell me what would you call this room?
They would call it the secret room.
Okay.
I call it the den of debauchery. David doesn't like to call it that. I don't like to lie. I'm pretty sure there were debaucherous things that took place here. They were pre-Judy, so it's okay.
Okay, that's it. So it was before you were cracking.
It's all good. Yeah, all good.
Okay.
And that was David's tape player. He had the first one in town that was like that. And so he brought it down here and they would watch movies. But if y'all have ever been around a recording session, there's a lot of hurry up and waits, and this was somewhere they could hang out. Also, it was somewhere where Steve Winwood or Mick Jagger or Willie Nelson could hang out and nobody knew they were here. So they got privacy.
Yeah, which is what I guess they were looking for at the end of a long day's recording.
Right.
So
Exactly.
tell me about this room. So we're in the basement area, below the studio right now. Was this all? It was all in existence from the same time? Everything open together? Was any of it added along the way?
Well, after the Muscle Shoals documentary came out, and I think I mentioned to y'all yesterday, we purchased this from it was privately owned. We purchased it, the guy had really let it go. He wouldn't open it for tours. And we knew, because that documentary was getting so much acclaim, that we're gonna have to get this place. So we started the Muscle Shoals Music Foundation so that we could own and operate it as a nonprofit. And then it would be open forever and ever, amen, to anybody in the world that wanted to come here.
So it's about sustaining its long-term legacy.
Yes. And since we opened it for tours, we've had 145,000 visitors from 40 different countries.
Wow. From how many countries?
40.
40 different countries.
And of that 140,000 people, 30% were not from the United States.
And give me a few, as a guesstimate of that, kind of UK wise. Did you get?
We get UK. There's Australia. There's
so
Egypt. Really... I mean, sometimes I'll go, really, and I'll ask these people, why are you here? And they'll go, well, how can I not be? This is on my bucket list. I hear that over and over again. And some of these people have saved up for 2 years to buy a plane ticket just to come stand in these spaces.
That must be a huge responsibility for you guys to preserve a legacy and still maintain the kind of credentials of a working studio.
Right.
How do you?
Well, and that's
how do you balance
and our mission statement is at odds with itself, because the foundation's mission statement is to celebrate the legacy of what happened here, but also to sustain the sound.
Yeah.
And celebrating the legacy is what we're doing right now. We're celebrating what happened here. Sustaining the sound requires some degree of recording.
Yeah.
But those people from Australia standing on the front door that tell me they've saved for 2 years to come here, I don't want to shut the door and go, I'm sorry, you picked a bad day. We got some rock and rollers. And I can't do that. So the way we get around that is, the reason y'all are here today, we're closed on Sundays and Mondays. So that's when we do recording, or at night. Or if it's huge, like Lana Del Rey came by last summer and just wanted to record, then we'll close it down. But generally, the artists that record here are very reverent.
I'm sure.
They're fine with working around those rules, and if we happen to have visitors and they see people recording, they get a big kick out of that.
Absolutely.
That just adds.
So give me a few names then of you just mentioned Lana Del Rey. In terms of the contemporary artists across genres that come here,
the first person to come and record after we restored the studio was Dan Auerbach. Okay. And then we've had Chris Stapleton recorded his song Cold that won a Grammy. He recorded that upstairs in our studio. We had what's his name? Dang.
Don't worry, take your
His
time.
father was an actor who recently died. His father always played the bad guy. Kiefer Sutherland.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Kiefer Sutherland.
Yeah, okay. Donald Sutherland.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
there we
he
go.
has, he tells us that he just acts to support his music habit because he has a band. But he had always wanted to come to the studio. But his band was playing in Florence, which is right across the river here. And he didn't know he was this close to the studio because, you know, you're on the road, you're a band, you do your shit, you go, that's
Next
it.
stop,
Yeah.
next stop.
So his manager said, Kiefer, look at this map. Remember that studio you bought? He said, we're like 4 miles from it. And he was like, he said he just burst into tears. He's like, you're kidding me. So he immediately got on the phone with our receptionist and said, I want to record there, like tomorrow, because he only had a couple of days in town. And so they put together a band. David played. They put together some of our legendary musicians, and he cut for a couple of days. Nicest guy you'll ever meet, but he cried half the time. I mean, he was just like, I just can't believe I'm here. Can't believe I'm doing this.
So even the Hollywood actors want to be.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. It's pretty amazing, and it's fun.
is.
It's fun to watch. You know.
And obviously, there's been decades of some of the most legendary music that's been made here. It must be difficult to pick out a couple of standout memories for you, or is it?
It's very difficult for David because people always want to go.
Who's your
What was
favourite artist?
and he'll tell you to get around that. And I told you he wasn't a bullshitter, but I was. But I think it's a pretty good bridge the way he gets around this. But he'll tell him the one I'm working with at the moment. But he really means that because all the Swampers poured everything they had into the moment. And their only goal was not to glorify themselves, but to make the artist sound as good as they could and to become the band for that artist. And that was their key to success.
So on the basis of that, I guess at the moment, David's favourite musicians would be our guys who are.
Yeah, exactly. See, you can tell everybody we're David Hood's favourite band.
He
said
Until
so.
the next one, Roger.
Right.
But what about you then? So from your recollections, if there was a, maybe not an artist, but a standout moment, you shared some wonderful stories with me yesterday about, memories of Keith Richards writing Wild Horses sitting on the toilet.
Yeah, and that's just kind of a historical fact that he shared in the Muscle Shoals film.
But from your point of view, then,
also,
what's memorable for you? What's the things that if you think of it, what's the first one that comes into your head?
Mavis Staples.
Okay.
They don't come any better. She walks into a room and everything changes for the better. It just does. And she's 82 and she's still performing on stage and giving it some of this and and she and David remain close friends. They stay in touch, but she is what she sings. She is that.
Well, that's an amazing reference for us.
The messages she's giving that's her life. That's how she lives her life.
It's wonderful for us, as I think I mentioned yesterday. So our working title for this project, for this documentary film, has been "I'll Take You There."
Right, and I loved that yesterday.
And that's it, because we've tried to honour the legacy and support the message and the way that you guys are, continuing to bring this place to life for people. And therefore, we knew that we wanted a title that allowed our audience to think about. We'll bring you there. We're bringing our audience and their eyes to this project, to this film. So that's a great one. That's a really good.
And it's all true. She's just one of the finest people I've ever met.
Yeah.
And that's saying a lot because other favorites, Steve Winwood, nicest guy you'll ever meet, just sweet. And by the time I got to know him, they were past their hippiedom days, and he was wearing, like the tweed jacket and the Perfect Gentleman. They did a project, not at this studio, but at the Swampers' other studio with Etta James and Steve Winwood, and I forgot, it was just a really nice, soulful lineup, and Jerry Wexler produced it, who was the vice president of Atlantic Records and was the Swampers' mentor. He also performed our wedding on April Fool's Day.
So that leads me really nicely. I was intrigued to know that you know, David's obviously built a legacy, both his own and as part of not just the rest of the Swampers, but the artists that have been through here. But you know, they say behind every good man there's a better woman.
Well, exactly.
Which is you.
I rest my case.
How have you found building this with, you know, your partner in life as well as I guess in business?
David's my soulmate, you know, and I worked in corporate jobs most of my life, like hospitals, International Paper Company. I retired when I was 55 because I wanted to write David's book. And then the Muscle Shoals documentary came out. And then Lisa Tell calls and says, "You're not retiring," you know, because he had to have some boots on the ground. He said, "You've got 30 years experience in communications. You've learned music by osmosis from being married to David for 35 years. And this is just where you've got to be right now." And I've had a ball, you know, first of all, getting to know Lisa and Tell, you know, but just in these people, it's been the happiest 10 years of my life. And I'm so glad I retired when I did. Because David and I got to travel the world a little bit more together while he was still healthy, and had a lot of fun doing it. We always loved to travel.
And it really comes across, and you know, we could see yesterday that sharing that moment, which felt incredibly intimate and personal, and
it was beautiful.
Yeah, it really was, and as I said, we're humbled to have been able to spend some time with
it
you
was.
and to have shared that
David
moment.
couldn't
It was
stop
really powerful.
smiling, you know, when he got home. I mean, just for hours, smile. He had not played the bass in over a year, not even really picked it up. So I think that happened organically.
Yeah.
Which was the only way it could have happened for him to be comfortable. And y'all had just created the perfect mojo in that room for him. He was playing off the kindness and your professionalism and your love for his craft, and all that came together, and we got what we got. And I can't wait to see the footage, because
The sound took over.
Are they? Oh, really? Well, that's a beautiful moment, and I know it's one that Lee will treasure too, you know, because he likes to keep a good records of Muscle Shoals music. But I was so happy for David, you know, and he just picked it up like it's always been like an extension of his arm. I mean, David's, you know, 81, which he's proud of, you know. As you noticed, he told everybody he saw yesterday. But every day from the time he was about 18 or 19, he played the bass until he was about 75 or 76. So that's how he feeds his soul. And you notice how natural he looked, just picking up the bass. He's done this his whole life. And that was beautiful. I told Andy, I said, David was born again today. That's what happened.